Alright, we
Smash the doors
are
on there.
live.
And
So that's me. I'd like to call this finance and legislation meeting to order. Mr. Burnside?
Here.
Mr. Ballack? Here. Mr. Bigley is present. We have one piece on the agenda right now. And it is an ordinance for the appropriation of current expenditures and other expenditures of the city of Struthers, state of Ohio, covering the fiscal year of 2025, ending December 31st, 2025, and repealing ordinance number 24-085, and any ordinance inconsistent herewith, and declaring an emergency. And that is from the mayor and Christie, and that is something we do every year, so.
That's
Motion to bring it up.
That's proposed budget.
Yep.
Yeah.
Motion to bring it out?
What do we wanna talk
Second
about?
Yeah, we wanna go through it first.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know what you guys did last week. Did you go through this at all?
No.
no, I
Okay.
didn't see it.
Here.
So we'll table this until time.
Anybody?
No, that's good. Ronnie wanted to.
Yeah, I wanted to.
Okay. Mayor, do you, or Chris, you wanna speak on this? It looks like in front of us we have the current raises proposed from 24 to 25.
So before we start, I wanna thank Chrissy, as we do every year, for spending all the time and effort and headaches and going back and forth with everybody, meeting with all the city departments to figure out what is needed, for this year's budget. So I just wanted to say thank you to Chrissy for putting this all together.
Thanks, Chris.
A lot of it has stayed the same, and I'll let you talk about it. In front of you are the proposed raises. We did look at a 3% raise across the board. There are a couple asterisks there that are, different than the 3%.
I would just speak to the part-time, they're just rounded up. That's the only reason, so 3% brought them to like 24 cents. It's just rounded to for payroll.
Were you saying on part-time police? Yes.
All the part-time people.
Okay.
Some, with the asterisks, most of that is just for rounding.
Okay.
It's not, cause it's not exactly 3%.
Except for the part-time dispatcher.
And then,
Is that correct?
well,
Part-time
the
dispatcher.
volunteer fire and part-time dispatcher
Right.
are two that
We
are
brought
above
big
and beyond
ones.
the 3%.
Okay.
And the assistant plant, that one is one that we already did, at the beginning of the year. 'Cause we knew
Correct.
that was coming up, so that one's already done.
I haven't here I was going to ask for the deputy, I would like, that position to be brought up to the clerk of council's rate. Do I need to go into detail why I think that?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Unless anybody else needs an explanation.
I don't.
And, I mean, I would be happy to, or just.
I understand.
Yeah, okay. And then for the treasurer, so I would say the treasurer puts in, 20 hours or more. And if you were to look at, say, our lowest paid clerical, like the part-time tax person, that would be that 20 hours times that rate is where that figure comes from. So that's a little above 3%. So those were the
Okay.
only two that I was asking
Okay,
council to
treasurer.
consider a raise of above the 3% that was offered across the board that the mayor was suggesting.
Okay. I would have more of an issue with the treasurer. Not that Mr. Brenner doesn't do a great job, because he does. But in the middle of, we're elected officials, so when we get elected for something, we know what our pay is gonna be.
Right.
Correct, and
Didn't
we're,
ask for.
and I'm sure. But my only thing would be, I wouldn't have a problem bringing Mark up, but this is a $3,160 raise.
Right.
I think we could probably find a middle ground there. Unless everybody else wants to go, I mean,
I just feel like,
$3,160 is a substantial raise, given that when you run to get elected,
You know what you're getting for it.
and you're running for a position that you're getting $14,000. Now, $3,100 is quite a substantial raise based off of a $14,000 salary. That's my only point.
Yeah, I was just trying to think of parity with, like I said, the lowest paid clerical hourly. And again,
I will agree,
this
Mr. Brenner does
person
a great
didn't
job.
ask for anything, doesn't
Mhm.
even know I asked for it.
Okay. And I would again say that Mr. Brenner does a great job.
Sure,
None of us have an
absolutely.
issue
Yeah.
with that. I don't know that everybody wants to give the 3,100 based off of a $14,000 salary.
Right.
That, I guess, is my point to look over.
Well,
That's all.
You can get a secretary that's here full-time and say, why am I not getting the $3,100?
Correct. So I mean, I don't have an issue giving if we give Mr. Brenner a bump, even though he did know what he was running for.
Sure.
But I would say we could probably meet some middle ground there versus giving that large of one. That's like a
Yeah.
20% pay increase. Actually more.
Well, you know, in terms of finding quality people, you know, it's like, it's not necessarily an easy thing to do.
I
You know,
don't-
hanging on to people, you know, with, you know, incentivizing with,
I don't
you
disagree.
know, a nice pay raise.
But in a position where I would agree with that completely, in a position that isn't an elected position.
Where you can hire.
If we were hiring on for
Right.
that position, that's a completely different story.
Just like
Right.
you or I. We're
Correct.
running for council, we know what the pay rate is.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Now, every so often, we haven't been brought up much, but every so often, elected officials do get brought up. But to get brought up 20+% in the middle of an election in the middle of a term, I don't know, it seems like a lot, based on the fact that we're elected. If it was a position we were hiring for and we were now
Where they can
looking to
negotiate
pull
their
candidates,
Right.
that
I
would be.
respect your position, and that's, you know, I get it. I would just say that that position historically was extremely underpaid for 20 years.
Sure,
So I kind of almost feel like it's bringing it kind of to parity of what
It should be.
it is reflective of the work that is entailed. And
when you,
I'm, let me see how I can put this and still be like politically correct. We have had people in the past, to Mr. Ballick's point about, getting good people that wanna run for the position and stay for the position.
Right.
I've had some experiences with people that shouldn't have ran for the position, and what a horrible situation it was for the city, and then in the long run, it probably cost us more money than this increase is
right,
getting us. I mean,
Mr. Brenner
and I would
has
also say
experience.
that Mr.
So-
Brenner did implement, a investment account that's bringing in over $100,000 more a year than we were getting previously, so that's just, you know,
Yeah.
counterpoints, but it's
Oh, and
honestly, it's at
again-
council's pleasure. I wanna reiterate again, Mark has not said a word, he hasn't asked for anything.
Yeah.
It's just,
And I'll tell you, even on the administrative end, we have a lot of meetings that we are bringing Mark into that we
Yeah.
normally haven't in the past. So he has a big input on what's going on just administratively.
the fact that Mark is a good employee and
Yeah.
is great for the city makes it more of a difficult choice. And I get it that a lot of these, especially like when we got here, when you took over, things hadn't got a raise for a long time, things were historically behind, I get that. But I think also we need to look at bringing them up over time, not big chunks at one time, which we have done prior to this. But I believe when I started, this was only a $10,000 position.
maybe 11? Oh, when you started.
Well, yeah, so I think it has been brought up quite a bit recently, so
How long have you been here?
I've been here, this will be 8 years.
How long is Mark's term for?
2 years.
He might be just like
How
us,
long
like
has
a
he been-
2-year.
This is his
This is
second
his
term.
second term.
When's his term up?
Ours is,
He's on the same
He
term
runs
as
with us.
Okay.
let's just put him at 16 then. And that'll make everybody happy.
Well, how many hours do you think, Mark?
A lot, more than
I mean,
he is here.
20,
So what is
That's
that
what I
putting
based
him
it
at,
on.
like hourly?
1675 with the
Which is our-
part-time tax clerk, and that's where I
That's
come
what I
up
was
with this
trying to
figure.
That's why it came up to that.
That's how I arrived at that figure, to be honest with you.
1675
The tax clerk, that's what she makes, part-time tax clerk, he puts in as many hours or more.
And, you know, and you think
I
about
didn't
the,
just pull it out of
And
any,
if he's
you know.
been here
Yeah,
for
no, I
4
agree with
years and
you.
he hasn't had a raise yet.
No, he did.
Oh, he did?
Yes, he did.
Okay.
I mean,
He's had
the,
one.
you
That's
know,
what I mean.
the
And it was raised
qualifications.
prior to him getting here too. It was raised. Before that, that's all.
But so what Jimmy's just saying though, you wanna keep him on.
Yeah, I mean,
And
I mean, he's a very qualified person, you know, it's, you know, finding qualified people, you know, it's like, where are you gonna find somebody like that you're gonna pay $16 an
No, I
hour
have a
and they're gonna
question.
work for
If
you?
we would approve this, like, say he leaves and we have somebody else come in, is this set in
Oh,
stone for
maybe.
this
Yeah,
position?
I don't know if.
I mean,
You can't be changing it,
No.
not
I
an
just
elected
think that that's
position, you
They
can't do
have been
that.
changed in the past though, elected positions have been changed.
Yeah, it has been,
And
it has
I,
been done.
that's something else I wanted to bring up
Yeah.
too, I think there's some disparity here as far as,
There's something.
I feel like
Um,
anybody elected though, the next, you know, Cat might say forget this, and then they elect somebody who's not qualified,
But
but it's elected.
But I understand
So-
that, but that person, right, but if Kat leaves, is it gonna be over not getting this raise?
No, that's not what I'm
You know what I
saying.
mean?
Well, to Megan's point that
Yeah.
they could lower it, I was just saying, I don't think that's in my
No.
opinion, a good precedent for
I
us
don't
to start
either.
for any elected people, just.
I don't think
Right.
it's a good precedent in general, you know what I mean? Unless we have somebody who's been here for 20 years and leaves and now we're hiring somebody from day one, that I can understand to some extent.
But
the
it has been done in the past.
Sure, but the
Yeah.
position pays what they generally pay, you know?
But that,
well,
that
I
usually
mean,
happens on the outgoing administration that does that.
Yes.
I mean, in terms of comparing it to other cities, I mean, what do their treasurers make, do we know? Have any idea? You know, what
I
the
don't.
going
I think
rate
if
is,
we
so to
start
speak?
If we compare
It's
though,
gonna open up a can of worms too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Well, you know, to another point, as far as, you know, and, you know, bringing up people's, pay has changed. I think that was the mayor's salary cut by, what, $10,000?
Something like that.
yeah, it was
Okay.
cut before, on the change
Okay.
of administration,
the next
it was
honey.
cut
Yeah.
before the previous mayor took
Okay.
over.
They found that that's not true, we talking about you can't.
Yeah, I was just reading it, okay, so no,
John, we argued this point and,
okay,
John argued this point at one time, and we were told by the state that we are in fact allowed to give raises midterm, and we have done it already.
Okay. But, you know, as far as the mayor's salary of $51,000, I mean, when you look down the list as far as what everybody's making, I don't know, there's something to be said about, you know, is that a fair wage for the mayor in comparison to, you know, all the other people that are on the list?
I'll be honest with you, looking at this in a perfect world, none of them are fair.
No,
Right?
no.
So if we start going by that standard, we're really gonna be in trouble, because for years and years and years, people wanna work in the city they live in. If you wanna work and drive 20 minutes to work each way,
Right.
to a bigger city that can afford to pay you more, I'll understand that, that's, you know what I mean, I can't make you stay for that, but at the end of the day, our city can pay what it can pay. And I think over the last few years, we've really bumped it up, and the time that Kat has been here, we have really bumped the pays up as much as we can. We don't have a giant rollover. We're now raising positions that we're responsible for that next year. If tax revenue's low next year, these people still need pay. We're not gonna cut their salary. So I just think incremental raises that we know we can afford are probably a smarter way to go for the city. And not really, I get it. Just,
I mean-
she deserves more, she deserves more.
Well,
And that's the truth. She
right.
deserves more, he
Absolutely.
deserves more.
That's right.
But that's the
John
city you
deserves.
chose to work for, and that's the rate that they can afford to pay, and that is the rate that you signed on for. Now, we have bumped it up, but at the end of the day, we still need to keep these within reason.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So you're saying that you're okay with the mayor making less money than 4 or 5 other people that are, you know,
What, well, I can tell you this, do you have a clear-cut way to bring in more revenue to pay our employees more? Cause if not.
I don't know.
Cause
no.
if not, you're putting the city into kind of a tailspin now.
Well, I mean, you know, we're not
Well, here,
talking
I-
about
I
tens of
can-
thousands of dollars, we're talking,
But over years,
about.
we are
What he's just
talking about
saying is
tens of
he's-
thousands of dollars.
He's in relative, you're not giving everybody a raise,
In
he's
terms
just
of relative,
saying-
I mean, we did it for Megan, I mean, we gave her a
Yeah.
$5,000 raise. You know, I mean, just,
And we did it
There
for
you
John
go.
at one point.
yeah,
And
Yeah,
I
we-
can, I,
but
and
also-
I've never proposed
also-
anything.
We did it for John at a point, Chrissy, at the same time we did
I'm
it
just
for
saying.
you,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
when your pay hadn't been brought up for how long? And that pay hadn't been brought up for how long? Was it a decade before you, since you had gotten a raise?
The position had not gotten a raise since 1994, I think.
94, and we did it in what, 2018? So that's why we went with $5,000.
But I think after that, John also got additional.
Let's look on here.
Here, and I'll say, I'm not one to sit
that
here
was
and
like
say
And
I
he's worth every
deserve
penny
a
and more.
raise or I deserve more than anybody else, because I've never, in 5-6 years, I've never put forth more than what everybody else is getting.
No,
And I love my job, I would never, it's not about the money for me, but I will tell you, I put in more time
oh,
than,
believe
and
me,
I
no
will, I'm
one's
gonna
combating that.
stand up for myself, I've never asked for a big bump.
Sure.
Like we've given other positions, even knowing that before me, the salary was cut by 10,000. So even with 3%, 3%, 3%, even with the 5%, it's never got back up to where it was
where it should be now.
before. So I'm gonna
absolutely.
stand up for myself on that aspect, because you guys all, everybody at
Yeah, it
this
was
table
brought back up.
knows
38,000.
how much
I
I
will
work
say
my butt
this.
off, and what the position
So this is your-
requires now is not always what it required in the past. So I've
And that's
put
your
in
mayor.
a lot, and our administration has been able to bring in more money
that's
than the
kinda-
city has ever seen.
Yes.
Right.
Again, I think we're getting off track. I think you guys are getting on a point where you're now stating, you know, how much you do for the job. Nobody's questioning how much you do for the job. Nobody's questioning her, nobody's questioning how much Mark does for the job. But that doesn't mean that the city can pay you
Right.
far more than what they're already paying.
well, what is the rollover from last year to this year?
I don't have that in front of me, but what I
Okay.
do have in front of me is the estimated certified receipts that we do to the county. The general fund for this year, we're estimating that we'll have about $6.4 million to work with, and this budget is $5.8 million.
Okay,
So there's a pretty good,
But in past years, we've only had 100, Bob said a few weeks ago how small our rollover was.
That's
That
because
was the
we
one-
had some pretty good expenses in the last
Well,
couple of years.
but you don't know what expenses are gonna come up moving forward.
True, but, I mean, the bridge cost us a considerable amount of money.
but
We're
none of
not gonna
that's
replace
general
another
fund.
bridge. It's
Well,
not,
It's not
but-
general.
it's not,
But what I'm saying is, you know, we used to have large rollovers, 1.2 million, 1.4 million. Now we have very limited rollovers. That is true. The last few years, they've been in the 100,000s, correct? That's a point to be taken.
Mhm.
You know, we have raised salaries
wanna
quite
say
a
it
bit
was
over the
like-
last
I don't have in front of me like
6 or 7 years.
It would be
Yeah, it's
in your
around
January
500 and some
report,
thousand.
like 500 and some thousand, I think.
Yeah. Well, why did we give Megan a raise?
Last year?
No, the year that we gave her the $5,000 raise.
I'll be honest, I don't even remember what year we gave that to her.
It was like 2.5, 3 years ago.
Okay,
Cause I don't think you were up to par with the other secretaries, right? And
Yeah.
you cover 7 people, 8 people.
Yeah, but it was also because we had had a raise and that we are doing a lot more than like.
Previously.
And I've been here
Sure.
for over 16 years and I'm considered a master clerk, so.
so I mean, you know, there again, you know, that's looking at it as in a comparative way to other employees, so.
I guess what I'm asking here is, what are you proposing?
What am I'm proposing something, I mean, you know, it's not like I'm saying, you know, that we need to give, Mark necessarily that total amount, but, you know, as far as the mayor is concerned, I believe that we should I don't know what would be a good number to work with.
And
I
when,
mean, you know, and it's just, that's just my thoughts, I don't know how everybody else feels about that, but that's, you know, kinda where, you know, I'm looking at these numbers and it's like, you know, it's surprising.
I will say that what separates the mayor from, say, the tax commissioner is $595,
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
just for comparison.
When you ran CAT, you were running under the assumption of the salary, I remember when they took that salary down,
That was
but
before.
That's not true. That was done
That was done
15 years
before the
ago when
previous-
Terry was here.
Yeah.
That-
okay,
yeah,
so it
Her
wasn't
salary-
done as you
and
were
that
running.
salary was brought back up, was it not, Chrissy? It was.
I wanna say
It was.
it was, but I don't.
Okay. I remembered it being down, but I
And again,
didn't
I-
remember when that
The
was.
point, I mean, just,
I'm not arguing that everybody isn't worth it and everybody doesn't do more than is shown on this piece of paper of what you get paid. I'm not, that's
But,
not
and
my
I
argument.
also wanna point out that when people run for these positions, they could care less about the salary. I never even thought twice about the salary.
No, 100%.
Yeah.
I probably donate as much to different things every year, half of our salary. It's not really
You're
what we're here
100%
for.
right, and I'll say that over and over again. But it does matter when my
Well-
husband's working overtime,
well,
I'm
plus,
subbing at the
but
school,
the- but-
it is,
Yeah,
it
at
is,
one point, the mayor's job was a part-time job.
and you all know I work
There's,
No, right.
there's nothing in
80
writing
hours.
stating that
Right.
job is full-time or part-time.
Correct. But it
Right.
was
What you wanna
considered, it was considered part-time,
It's never, there's nothing in writing.
but the past mayors always,
It's what you
Emphasize.
wanna, it's what you
yeah,
wanna put
right,
into it.
yeah, they're right.
You wanna put 8 hours a day? Put 8 hours.
Yeah.
You wanna put 4? 4. You
I
wanna
think
come in at all?
I think
Put
the
three.
idea that someone runs for a job and because they're elected and whatever the job happened to be when they got in, they shouldn't expect to get money. I mean, I've been here 28 years. If you guys have never given me a raise, Jesus, like,
Well, no, but I don't
You know what
think,
I mean?
but
Like-
people run for a position and they have gotten raises while they've been in that position.
and I think that that's how it
Mr.
should have been.
You know, well,
You know what I
I
mean?
understand, but what I'm saying is, you're acting as if Mr. Brenner has been here for 20 years and has never gotten a raise, and in fact, he's been here
say
for 4 years and has gotten, I think, 2 raises already. So, I'm not arguing any of it. All I'm saying is incrementally,
Should it be that much?
should it be this much?
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. Or
That's a-
should we,
that's
should we
a
do a
valid
little
point.
bit now
To that
and a
point, I
little
wasn't
bit
even
next
speaking
election?
about
That's how
that.
all of this came
Like,
about.
I wasn't, my comments, weren't reflective of that argument. I'm just in general saying.
No,
that-
but I understand, but that's how this whole argument came about was Mr. Brenner is getting a 22%,
I would say this conversation.
22% raise.
Right.
That's how this came about. My only thinking was we're elected officials, you knew what you were gonna get paid. Do we have to give 22% right now, or do we give 10 this year and 10 in 2 more
It's at
years?
council's pleasure, so
Th-
whatever you
that
think.
Right.
that's a
And it
point that I'm
is-
trying to make.
No, it's
This is great to give everybody all the raises they want. This ain't your money.
Right.
This ain't your money.
Yeah.
Alright,
Well,
this is the city's money.
We do
It has
pay
to
taxes
function.
in Struthers.
Well, I
It
understand that,
is our
but
money.
But over time,
but-
especially in the
But
I
last
you
know
few
understand
years.
what I'm
Yes,
saying, this
absolutely.
isn't my money to, I think Kat's worth $100,000, I think Chrissy's worth $100,000. It's not my money to give you $100,000,
Right.
it's the city's, we have to all be
But, yeah.
sensible.
But these positions, and I can honestly say almost all of these positions over the last 6 years, I've went to bat for very significant raises and we've proposed them to you and you guys have passed them graciously. The position, the responsibilities for a lot of those positions have changed in 6 years and there's a lot more duties and responsibilities on those positions, which is why I've never asked for more than what everybody else is getting. I've never even,
And again, I didn't, when we discussed all this, the only person I asked about was Mr. Brenner, because of the percentage-based raise that he is getting, is a large
Yeah,
percentage,
that's big raise.
is a large
Mhm.
percentage
I don't disagree.
for
I-
an elected official.
Right.
Only one I brought up. I didn't say about a word about anybody else,
31. I
not
did.
making enough, not
No,
making.
I'm the, I
You know what I
brought
mean?
up
So-
the mayor.
I
Again,
don't disagree about the treasurer's position, and whatever it is, whatever it ends up being is fine. I just wanted you to know where I was coming from. It wasn't like I was like, well, that's 30%,
yeah, no,
I
I
told you
understand.
where I came up with that.
Correct, and
So-
I get that.
and whatever.
100%. So whatever anybody
You guys
else
decide
thinks
is fine.
is perfectly fine to throw out there, but for me, 22% is a lot to give an elected official in a 1-year raise. I get the guy does a ton. I get the guy's making us the money. I get it.
What are you good with?
I would say exactly what Ricky said. you know, we give him a bump of maybe 10% this year, which puts it close to 16,000, and
Okay.
evaluate it again in a year or two. I'm not
Okay.
saying don't give him anything. Mark's a great employee. I don't
Right.
want him to leave.
Yeah.
I don't think he has intentions on leaving, and I don't honestly, knowing Mark, I think Mark would do the job for nothing. I think he enjoys it. And with that being said, I don't think we should underpay him.
Yeah.
But I think we should create fairness of this guy got elected for a $14,000 position, an incremental raise I can understand. Do the 10% this year and do 10% in a year or two.
Okay.
You know, I feel like if we continue to go this way, we have nowhere to
price
jump
yourself
to.
right out of
We
the
are. We're gonna
Right.
have nowhere.
Right.
There's gonna be a couple years where, you know, we have secretaries that make $70,000 a year. We're not a city who can afford that.
Mhm.
That's my whole point.
Oh, no, I agree with you.
I do too, I agree with you.
You know,
I think you guys are worth it. I
What's
do
proposed for
wholeheartedly.
most of these raises are 3%, is council comfortable with 3%?
I have no issue with 3% whatsoever.
Right.
They should get 3%. Inflation has been bad, that's for sure. I mean, if we're able to give them 3%, that's what we should do. I'm perfectly fine
So
with
that
all of
was
those.
plugged in to this budget.
Okay, how about as far as the mayor is concerned? I mean, do we wanna consider, you know, aside from the 3%, making it more than 3%, or?
What are your thoughts, Jim? And listen, any number you say is gonna be undervalued. So just
Right,
have that
right,
in mind.
right,
That's
right.
why I said this just isn't a perfect
Right.
scenario. Cat is worth double $51,000. I agree.
Yeah,
What can we do? You know what I
Right.
mean? What can we do?
Well, you
On-
already have $1,000 that we're not giving Mark, that was already figured in, so that's a given.
I don't have an issue with that,
So,
Lori.
you know, I feel that, you know, I don't know if you wanna split that, whatever his would have been, and say 1,500, and, you know, she already has it figured in, and that it isn't gonna be a problem.
I do
mean,
not have an issue with that whatsoever.
Well, I'm just
I
saying
think
that's,
that's the minimum.
Yeah, that's a
If we would
minimum.
just, the money that's appropriated in this budget for Mark,
Mhm.
we said we're only gonna take 10% of Mark's total pay and add that instead of 22%. Still leaves us with 1,500 or so dollars.
okay.
That's already figured into the budget. So that we could go to the mayor's salary without
Which would be like 11.
moving anything around, really.
Okay,
and then if
That's
you
already
wanted it
accounted
more,
for, right,
I
Chrissy?
mean,
It's already accounted for, so that we're dealing with the same amount of money in the budget. We just gave some to Mark and we gave some to the mayor.
okay, so if we're looking at giving Mark, how much?
10%.
10%.
So it brings Mark to $15,400.
So that would be a total of 10%, so instead of getting a 3% raise, we're giving him an additional 7%.
Correct.
Okay.
Which,
I mean, if that's what everybody were to.
I mean,
were
I
to
think
agree
it's
on.
fair.
Okay,
It's more than fair, cause I was willing to do 2,000, but
mhm,
10% right now and then 10% next year and every year
yeah,
after that.
address it again in a year, let's
That's
see
all
where our
right.
budget is next year.
And then you
But
would-
if we give I guess my point is, if we give these raises and we have a bad year next year, we have
Right.
less tax revenue come in, where are we gonna stand then?
And then Jim, you wanna up the mayor's salary with the rest of, the treasurer's money then?
well, I don't know, that's,
1760?
I thought that's what you were saying, you wanna allocate that money?
well, no,
no,
I
that's
said,
what
you
Lori
did.
said,
You
yeah.
I
said
just
that.
said, we already have that money in the budget, I
Chrissy,
said,
why you got that out?
you know,
Can you give me a percentage of what 1760 is from 51,000? I'm not that sure.
do with him?
So, I mean, if it was $1,500 allocated towards the mayor, that would be a 6% raise instead of a 3%
That's what-
raise.
You know what I
If
mean?
you, if you did it already, then
Yeah,
yes.
well, 2.98%, and I just based that off of $1,500.
Right, great.
Well, I mean, you know, it's like, it's a matter of where everybody is on that, you know,
What are-
how far do you wanna go?
And I do agree with Jim, the mayor does put a lot of time in.
Well, there's no doubt about that, I mean,
Yeah. And it is, you know, just looking at
More
the
than
salaries, that, you know,
Other
it's,
John.
in a past. I could
What
do that.
about John? He puts a ton of time in. He's here all the time.
John?
that is
John.
true.
Huh?
everybody, you know, Dallas is right,
Once you go
everybody is
down the
worth more
list.
than
Yep.
what they're
This is
getting
where it
paid, yeah.
goes to.
I'm good with that.
I'm good with it as well.
Okay, moving on.
Thank you.
Really, it's just, everything we have to fund. Most of the categories are on par with, I don't know, you have to ask Megan.
Oh, she did?
Yeah.
It's in your mailbox.
Nah, it's right here.
Yeah, well, that's.
There is $100,000 plugged into $50,000 in the demo, which is kinda a little more than we normally have in there.
Where are you looking at?
That's
That
what
would
it's
be
usually
the
been in the past, though.
109,000. Well, we kinda weren't able to, and
I
then
know.
now, like I said, because we have, there was like about almost $400,000 that went unbudgeted here to have a nice cushion for us.
Bob, how many houses are actually on the demo list, on
Five.
our side?
That we're paying for?
Yeah.
None.
None.
We have one house we want to demo, but we didn't have any money in the demo list.
So, but we wanna demo the building downtown though, right?
We do. And
That's
50,000
we're
won't be
trying
enough
to
for
be-
that.
Yeah,
Well, Mahoney County.
But that could be max money for a grant though, couldn't it?
There,
That's why we want something in that budget.
yeah.
Because there's other expenses that go along with just the demo cost.
The
Title
asbestos.
searches and
I
things
thought
like
we
that.
were gonna get something through the county.
Not
We were
for-
hoping to.
we were hoping to, we tried every avenue for that money. We have a meeting next week with Deb Flora and Ian Beniston, Deb's from the land bank, that we're gonna try to ask again, even if we can't get it this year, if they can put us on for the next year for commercial buildings. We've tried every avenue for taking that down, they didn't have it through the county. But there are grant applications that KO is looking into for the demo money of that. There's other ways that we can try to get creative.
Now,
But-
is it possible to have a terrain controlled burn for the firemen?
Not to that,
I
not
don't
to
think
that size.
I don't
No?
think that,
That's too big of a risk. You got, surrounding buildings you gotta consider.
That would be even more
well,
training.
there's a sewage line under there too.
That would be even be better training.
There's a,
You're talking about the Los Galos building.
Yes.
That's too big of a,
Okay, so currently
We're-
there's.
So what if it did get on fire? Who would
That's
take
a
care of
different
it?
story,
Yeah, I know,
Bob.
but you'd
That's a
have to be
different
trained
story.
to do stuff like
that's a
that.
different story.
No,
not
it's
a
not
house.
really, not really.
Well, there's
It
an
almost caught
accident.
on fire when it
There's
was
an
in
The
accident.
big
There's
problem
a-
with that is a controlled burn on a
Did you
building
fix
that
them,
size,
Frank?
you're gonna need a ladder truck, and we don't have a ladder truck and.
So, alright,
And the amount of
situation.
manpower you're needed.
What if you didn't have control of that fire that started when you were showing it?
Then we call for mutual aid, but
Okay.
we can't count on mutual aid for training purposes.
Why
Right.
not? Couldn't you have a
I mean,
combination
we could,
training
but
session?
It'd take a lot of, that's mostly a brick building anyhow, so I don't think it's going to.
Fire would take down a brick building.
And then what do you do with the debris
ask,
after that?
find somebody to ask, I don't, and we already did get the asbestos check and we know there's no asbestos on there, so that was
Cause
already.
they would've had to get that redone in the mid-2000s, when
Yeah.
they pulled all those permits to get the building redone, a lot of that asbestos would've had to been abated at that time,
Yeah.
so.
So right now, we're looking at an avenue where we have a sanitary line. Somebody gave, I think it was Martin's Appliance at the time, permission to put an addition onto ECMSI building.
And it's over top of our
And it's
sanitary.
over top of one of our storm sewers. And we believe that line is collapsing because it was a galvanized line. So whoever gave them permission to build it, that's in the past, it doesn't matter. We have to correct the problem. So one of our thoughts is we're gonna divert that line. We have to do this. We have to divert that line. If we divert it down through the Los Galos building, we can use stormwater funds to take that building down for this project. So that's one avenue we're exploring. I'm not gonna say we're gonna do it, we're gonna explore that avenue.
But we just had the line up at St. Nick's.
Yeah.
I seen them there this morning.
The whole town is done that.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah. But,
Okay,
But we're also gonna ask the county, so we're looking at different ways to take that down.
Okay.
So the last estimate was about $70,000, right?
That was a couple years ago.
Yeah, right.
So it's
So what
probably
is it
gonna be
now?
over 100.
Yeah, it'll for sure be over.
Plus if we do with the stormwater project, that we have to move, we have to do the stormwater project anyhow. The stormwater project's probably gonna be $70,000 just in itself. We have asked, an engineer to look into it, so, we'll have more information probably in a month or two.
What are we doing with this, I'm looking through this, with this street levies, resurfacing and that? I see there's 382,000.
Yes, we're getting a bunch of streets paved this year. So we have Lincoln from 9th to Garfield. We have
I thought we're getting the grant you got a grant for that, Lincoln and,
OPWC, the same one we get every
right,
year. Yeah,
okay.
That's part of this money. That's
Right.
part of the matching money
And-
that we do every year.
the other one by the fire station.
Yeah,
that street.
let me finish the list
Okay.
of streets. So we have Lincoln from 9th to Garfield. We have Creed from Garfield to Argonne. We have Elmwood Court. We have West Lewis, and then we are also repaving Bobseen Way. So we already met with MS, and we're hoping to get that done in the first couple weeks of August so that it falls after baseball season but before school. So we're trying to time this up perfectly so we go out to bid so that it's all done and we don't have to worry about buses or rerouting everybody because most like Lincoln and Creed
Yeah,
are all close to school routes.
yeah.
How much of Bob Seen Way are you paving?
A half a mile? Half a mile.
So off Bridge?
From Bridge to where you could see there's a clear line.
Down around the ball field,
Yes, you can see where
the
right.
parking lot?
Yeah.
So
if
it's before the train tracks, I assume, that you go to.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's if you drive down, there's a clear line. You could see. Okay, that's all brand new. So it's that
Mhm.
first half mile. It's
Okay.
terrible. It's
Yeah,
It
it's
is,
bad.
it's
but
bad.
that's gonna
It's
all
bad.
be happening. We have the safety plans going on too. The same. It downtown is just gonna be a mess for a little while. I have there's no other way around it between Aqua, Dominion, the railroad, and we've been in touch. We talk with the business owners on a daily basis, so they're all aware of what's going on. They understand. It's difficult, but we just kind of got to get through this. It's
There's-
just
What we
There's no
have
way
going
around
on
it.
right now, we can't push anywhere, but do we have any projects coming up that we could potentially push until some of these are finished?
So the downtown safety upgrade is in the design process right now. We're anticipating it to go out to bid either December or January, so we will actually be on next year's budget.
Okay, so I'm
Yeah,
not
other
saying
than the design
budgetarily,
costs that
I'm
we're calling
saying
right now.
congestion.
Well,
These projects will all be cleared out before that is started, correct?
Those will, and then come August will be the paving, and then,
so it'll be good for a little bit, and then
yeah,
it'll
then
it'll be
Well-
good, and
next
it'll be
summer
back.
will
But
be,
We can only handle so much down there, I'm
Yeah.
saying, so
And
that's
it's
great,
all
but that's not gonna
improvements.
start until next year.
right, this will be done before that project.
Okay,
And I think as long as we communicate with the business owners and the people that are down there and they're aware and they're not blindsided by anything, that's our, but it's, there's no,
and whatever we
So
need to do
adding
though
to
to
the
keep
congestion
traffic
will also
flowing.
be the county's replacement of the bridge on State Street. At some point, I don't know when that exactly is gonna happen, that will cause a little bit of congestion because the detour is going to be
To the
Bobsey
corridor,
Way.
yeah, okay, okay.
Hey, you wanna improve, you got.
Yeah, what do you, I mean,
when it's done, it's gonna look so nice.
Bob
I agree.
Seen Way, are they, when you put that out for bid, are they gonna keep in mind of the heavy truck traffic that's,
Yeah, they're aware. I think they're doing two.
you know what I'm saying? It's not an average street, it's heavy
So-
trucks there.
So
They
we're
doing a
doing
lift
1.5 inches of asphalt, which the city has always done previously. I think we're gonna go 2 inches
Yeah.
at that point.
Is that
you
enough for
guys-
heavy trucks?
not really,
No,
but did you guys,
We don't have enough money to do it the right way.
did you look into, like binder or anything like that to get put into the material? A lot of places do that with heavy truck traffic, it's
Yeah,
almost like
do that.
rubber additive that they put in there that allows it to do that. Now, again, we might not be able to afford that either.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just,
So, I've had conversations with other communities in the county and everybody else. Asphalt doesn't seem to last as long as it used to. And it's probably because they're using a lot of
grinding,
grindings
millings,
and,
yeah.
right, so, I mean, we're gonna do the best we can and hope that it lasts. I can't guarantee how long.
Okay. They do make a product that is supposed to,
Yes.
lengthen the lifespan, you know.
And
Where are we at as far as, I know we've talked about this in the past with the, crack sealing.
Yeah,
Is that something that we're
Just
gonna,
gonna ask
Yeah.
that if there was
Well,
anything in the budget
if
for
you're
that.
gonna do any crack sealing, I don't know what part you wanna take it out of. If you wanna take it out of your street resurfacing, $20,000 used to be budgeted for crack sealing. We used
Right.
to do a lot of streets with $20,000.
Mm-hmm.
But now
You're-
we're
you're
using
not
that
doing
money
that
to
much anymore.
resurface. So either we take that money out of resurface, we do less
I-
streets, which
I-
isn't, it's.
I gotta
it's-
be honest, alright, and again, I feel like $20,000 you're not getting very much paved with, we know that, correct?
Also,
Right.
wasn't very much crack sealing.
Well, but that's true in the sense of how we used to crack fill, which was we did streets that were far past their prime. That $20,000 on streets that were done 3 years ago goes far because there's not very many cracks.
So when you crack seal, you try to do streets that are 3 years old.
That's perfect.
3 years old,
Exactly.
you're starting to develop cracks, and they're small cracks that you can do. So that's what you try to do. With $20,000, you're not even gonna be able to crack seal the streets that you paved this year in 3 years from now. It's not gonna happen. All the streets that we paved last year won't get crack sealed for $20,000. I mean, I could spend $20,000, I may be able to do one street, but that's about all you're gonna get.
Just for crack
No,
sealing, one
no.
street?
Price of everything has gone up.
I mean, it has, but it has not gone up to that extent. When you bid out for crack sealing, you bid out what, for per pound? For a pound. And so what it was when the program was available 5-6 years ago, we're saying that we used to do 8 streets.
Yeah, for about $1 a pound.
What is it now?
I don't know, but it's a lot more than $1 a
Gotta
pound.
look into.
Yeah, I would think, I understand that, but what I'm saying is, when we did 8 streets, we did 8 streets that hadn't been done in,
I'll get
hadn't
one.
been paved in 10 years, Paul.
If I find
You
a
remember
company-
that when
yeah.
you were there?
If I find a company that still does crack sealing, because a lot of them don't,
We-
I'll try to get a price.
Remember when we did Iroquois?
Mm.
Iroquois was horrible.
Right.
The amount of crack fill we put on Iroquois, that got done on Iroquois,
Yeah,
remember that?
that should not have been
That
done.
could have done
The whole
5 streets that were 3 years old then, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm saying, if we could look into it, there was a smarter way to do it than we were doing it, we're agreeants on that,
Right.
correct?
Absolutely. You
So-
should not, that Iroquois should never, it should be streets that are 3 years old,
I,
where you barely see the cracks.
yes,
That's how you change the streets.
correct, but that was my main point, if we're getting ones that hardly have cracks,
Well,
we should be able to do far more
I mean, I'm
streets,
53 years
because we're
old,
doing
there's no
less
less poundage
poundage.
that's ever been.
right?
Since I've lived.
True.
Now, I get,
I know the last
My
time
street's
we
never
did
been
it,
paved. As long as I've been
was the
40,
Iroquois, the
40,
time before that, when we were doing the
60 years
3-year-old
old.
streets. We didn't get them all done.
you didn't get very many.
I have,
But
I counted from my street to
Okay,
the
so yeah,
center
we could
street,
just look into it a little
There's
bit, you know
been
what I mean?
12
Cause I
water
think
line
that
breaks.
program, done in a different manner,
Whoa.
could really help.
Man, you're old.
Yeah, I mean, there's streets in Struthers that's never been paved.
Right.
My street hasn't been paved in 60 years.
What do you think, Bob? Do you
It
think
has
we
though,
should?
because all this water line
Well,
breaks.
I had, from my
bad.
driveway up to
No.
Center Street, there's been 12 water
My
line
point
breaks.
is, do you put the 20,000 into resurfacing, which 20,000?
Hey, I mean, if we don't use it,
You
we
could
don't
get a
use
couple
it.
of driveways done for $20,000. That's really how much it costs now, you know what I mean?
Sure.
You're gonna get 2.5, 3 driveways done, right?
Yeah.
In resurfacing, but if we can do
If we
5 or
could be-
6 streets
yeah.
and kick those out so that they don't have to get resurfaced for an extra 5 years,
Sure.
it's worth the
that
investment.
probably is worth
Absolutely,
it in the long run, you know what
Let's
I
get a
mean?
pricing on per pound and see what we can do.
See where we're at, yeah.
That's all. I mean, it's the least we can do.
Yeah, I think we can get more than one street done.
No, I do
Oh,
too,
Yeah.
I do too. So, okay, keep rolling.
So, any projects that you've already said, you know, yes, we'll enter into this agreement or that is funded here.
Okay.
Healthcare is always a yes, it's funded here.
Chris, do you wanna give us any
Think of anything else.
big projects or smoking guns that you foresee us when we go through here? That you know, hey, we allotted this money because, you know, of this problem or that problem that we know we're gonna have this year?
You'll see some of the things that are out of the ordinary, like if you look at last year to this year, but you'll know by the name right away that it is because we got money from somewhere else. Like one is that community, grant that we got, it's like $102,000. You're not gonna see it last year, you're gonna see it this year because we were given the money.
What is the court special project, something that
Yeah, so I was just
Jimmy wanted us to talk to us about?
So, the previous judge had, created a fund called Special Projects Fund, and I don't know what his intention for
It
it was.
wasn't earmarked for anything, correct?
I think his end goal was to build his own court separate from this building. But what Judge Malone is gonna do is upgrades to the, court chambers, to make it so that they could have jury trials, or some other things need like upgraded in there, but I think like the risers, and to also make it work, with council meetings as well, so,
Witnesses.
yeah.
I think it's,
He's gonna be, coming into council next week, and he's gonna explain what he wants to do there in a court change, so he'll have a,
But to the point though, like, I don't think council, we put it in here, we budget for it, but really,
We
the
have no
judge
control
decides
over it, right?
what, yeah. So
It might-
even if
it
you
might-
guys were
it
like,
might not do
no,
that.
Right.
so he'll be in next week. I think I told you all some of the stuff.
Yep, you did.
So he'll be in and he'll explain to everybody what he wants to do, and maybe up to the council's end game, whether you endorse it or not.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Bob, did I miss any, you guys know the bridge project,
Yep.
some of the other projects aren't gonna come to fruition until 26.
Correct.
Am I missing a project? I think we're,
The only unknown we have right now would be this building,
this built, my office,
your office.
roof leaking.
It's not a big deal.
I'm
That's
okay
what I
with,
mean, like, him
Patch
putting
it
all
over.
that into that area, are we okay with the whole building? Like,
This just happened.
okay.
The building structure itself is very, it's just been neglected for a number of years. When you look at the front of the building, you can see it needs paint, you can see a flagpole is rusted, it needs painted. A lot of cosmetic things to the building should be upgraded, and we will get to them when the budget permits us to. The only thing that's unknown is I got somebody coming in next week to inspect our roof.
Now, I will say this, keep your fingers crossed obviously on the roof, because flat roofs are incredibly expensive. I've owned a lot of them. The thing I will say though, coming out of something like winter like that, it probably just clogged up, and it's probably damming up water in
I was
certain areas. It was frozen, it was,
There's no water around your drains, but you've got puddles, big puddles,
okay,
big puddles, which to me indicates that
it's settled in areas.
yeah, so the foam or insulation underneath your gut leak got wet, it sinks, and
Settled, yeah.
then you got.
So, that's reinforced rubber up there, I assume?
who
When I
would have been
walk
here
around,
when we
it's cracked.
got that replaced?
So it's just old reinforced rubber.
Were you here, Mike?
Here all the time.
Yeah, when Terry
Mike was here, it got replaced, the time before it got replaced, Mike.
I think we just gonna,
Hey, I tried.
Molly
we
was
just got it
here.
coated.
Molly
We just
was
got
here.
it coated.
It was like $50,000.
Yeah, I think we just put
Cheap
new,
then.
yeah, that's,
And it survived us for about 10 years.
And
Yeah.
I've owned ones before that every other year you had to go up there and retar, which, that's a cheap way to Band-Aid something and keep it moving along if you don't have the funds to fix a whole roof.
So I'm gonna have it inspected next week, Simon Roofing is gonna come in and give us an inspection, and then he'll give us some advice and prices after that.
I'm okay with whatever, I just don't want it to fall on my head. Because
We
right
had
now
to-
I have a big hole in my roof,
We had
in
to
my
take down
office
$10,000
ceiling.
Chrissy's office because
I got
they
a
were so.
bunch of buckets at my
I
shop
thought it was
right
dirty
here.
wobble.
I've been
Keep
using buckets for
Yeah.
all year, for a year.
Well, we just put a skylight in for
Yeah,
Okay,
Here you go.
Or how about a new building?
no, you get a shower in your office,
There
that's
you
what
go.
Yeah.
Kiss
Yeah,
me.
how
Kiss
far
me
down?
out.
That's pretty far down the road.
Would be the open.
Kayo's team brought on someone from Brownfields, and there's been some, and we could discuss it later, because I don't wanna do it right now, but we may be making a little bit progress and quicker than we thought. Even though it's down the road, but there's been a
A little
couple,
bit
yeah,
quicker than what.
just,
The only other thing I would say was to the extent that this is a balanced budget in the manner that unencumbered carryover funds, coupled with expected revenues more than cover what is budgeted here. Normally I try to do like a 10% reserve, and we are in most funds above the 10%. So I think this is a
Good job.
good budget.
Yeah.
And financially, considering the, climate of the rest of the world, I think we're okay.
Alright, good.
Mm-hmm.
Next year, Chrissy's hard work and telling me to stop spending money.
Chris, if you need help telling them to stop spending money, call me.
Bob
I'll
says,
come down
I
here,
need
we'll tell them
this.
together.
I'm like, double, I'll have to double what you asked for.
Yeah.
It's always more.
So the only thing we're gonna, change is just the mayor and the treasurer.
So we're gonna do, 1,500 for Mark, and then the remainder of that would be what, 1660?
14 and 1760. 14 to Mark, 1760, to mayor's position.
Okay.
And, just a point to bring up, before anybody thinks that we're cheap with money or we don't push it out to people, we are in charge of giving raises. We have never given ourselves a raise, except for the people who got brought back up to what it was before you and I were here.
We've taken cuts and raises,
Correct.
$5,000.
So we had a $500 one time that was to put it back to what got taken away from you guys one year.
Correct.
But nobody here, I don't think, cares about the money.
No.
We're not here for that. So at the end of the day, we're not being hypocritical by
Do
not
you want
trying
me to take the raises out then for council that are proposed here?
Are they?
Yeah, we're on there.
3%.
That's what I was gonna say, I don't know what you're, yeah.
And you guys got 5% last time. I don't know what you're talking about.
We did?
Yes. And
Well, where the hell was I? I've never
only
looked at
one,
it.
Well,
only
you know,
the
after
president
next
was
year,
cut
we're gonna change
500
that
and given
position.
500.
Yeah,
Not
I
every member of council.
never knew we give ourselves raises. Not one time.
Do you not look at your paycheck?
No, I don't get a paycheck. Mine gets direct deposited. I don't look at it at all.
You don't pay your.
No, you don't need that.
I don't even look at it, no.
Wait a minute, the raise that we got last time brought us back up to what we used to be.
No.
Yeah, because we used to only make about $8,000, and then we made 85, and then
You made it high before I was here.
before, and then
When I came, it was
Yeah,
8,000.
Yama brought up
$500,
$500.
8,000, then
correct.
down the road, we brought back up to
And then
8,500.
it was 5.
So where we
Then we've gotten
Then,
like a 2% or something.
yes,
anyway.
when
We are getting those?
when my position got a raise for the very first time, and we talked about, John fought and got us, like, we could have it in the, to prove that revised code, we could have it in the middle of the term. Council got raises then, and then every time I've gotten a raise, council's gotten a raise, at the same percentage
I mean,
that
it's 200
I've
and
gotten.
some dollars, right, that's it.
Yeah, 3%.
Yeah. I had no idea that we were getting the same percentage raises as everybody else.
You've been. And you guys get, and you get the sheet. You get the sheet. It shows you.
No
on
idea.
there.
I had no idea. So we gotta start nipping that in the bud.
I
No
think
more,
I
no
just
more
tried
2% raises for us.
one time that
I'll be honest.
what we're saying?
I'm fine with that, yeah.
No raise for us
Only
this
once.
year?
I'm
And
perfectly
I
fine with that moving forward.
Healthcare, good.
No,
No, I'm just saying, I think this one time I remember being here that we,
we got one, yeah. I'll be honest.
Give yourself a raise, you're given a
I'm with
position, and you need to keep giving the position a raise. as long
because
as
here's
you
the
can
problem
afford
we get in Dallas, I think I know where you're coming from, but we have to stay compatible to other places, and it's great that we can do this and live in the city, and I love it too, but I think that you're giving us a couple hundred.
Yeah, I don't like, I didn't like it from the start, and I've been vocal about it. My first term I was on finance and legislation, I've been the chairman for the last 6 years. I've never wanted to give us raises, because we are the people who are in charge of giving raises. Does that make sense?
No.
Well, that doesn't mean you don't deserve a raise.
If you above and beyond everyone
Right,
else, I would agree, but when it's a percentage and you're getting the same percent, isn't that just,
I'll leave it up to everybody else, I don't care what we do. Moving forward, we wanna stay out of the basically 2 and 3%.
$2,000 out of the budget for the whole group.
It's fine with me either way, but I was under the understanding that as elected officials of council, we were not getting the 2 and 3% that everybody else was getting. And that's probably my fault for never checking a paycheck, or looking at it entirely, but.
Too much money then, bro.
Yeah, you did.
So, yes.
they
So,
donate it all back, so, most of it.
so we are saying we are not going to get the 3% raise this year, is that what you're
Saying
saying?
that.
Just council.
It's in here, just, it's,
Okay,
we're in the budget. Dallas says, no, I'm not saying that.
Mr. Alex spends that on beer night in 1 week.
Yeah, I spent that in 5 minutes.
I do.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I thought
Beer night, what's beer night?
You got something good,
the winery singing.
donate mine to something whatever it was for me, alright?
I got it.
I really, I'll be honest, now I feel like an idiot because I had, for the last so many years, I thought we were at $8,500, the same way it's always been. So,
So
now we're gonna donate more this year. Anybody else have anything? So, we're gonna make our motion to bring this out.
Sidewalk?
yeah,
Oh, sorry.
Okay, so this ordinance has been read, I need a motion to bring it out.
motion, bring it up.
Second that motion.
Okay, that's it for legislation. Who has anything else for finance and legislation? I have a paper on it, I don't have any legislation for it.
Yes. I'll let you go.
I guess what we need is find a location in our ordinance where we're gonna throw this, and then we can write it up in the legislation form. We got this off of another community because it's pretty much standard legislation.
I have a couple questions about this, if you don't mind. First of all, my first question is, in section 1, the ordinance establishes a sidewalk enhancement control authority. Who, that's made up of whom? It doesn't say.
Well, that's, when we write our legislation, this was given us a copy from another
Yeah, this is
community,
ours.
so what we would probably do is change the legislation to read, our board of control. Or somebody to that effect.
And then,
It's gonna be comprised of.
what is this accomplished that we can't already do?
So if a sidewalk was put in next to an easement and it went onto, private property, you have to get permission to repair that sidewalk.
On private property?
If,
Outside the easement,
outside the
So
Do we
this is
have
coming
areas where sidewalks are
This is
outside
coming
of
into
believe
play with the safety,
study downtown?
So why, to that point, why don't you just pass an ordinance that just basically says what section 3 says? And that's what it says, is if it's within or without the right of way, then it's always presumed to be within the right of way. All sidewalks are presumed to be within the right of way, essentially is what this says. Can we just pass that? I mean, what else would
if you say yes, then yes.
Yeah, I would say, you're kind of the guy who said.
Well, no, I'm not the one who was floating this, so I wanna make sure I understand
So
it
this
first
was
of all.
given to us by our engineers from another community, and this is what they passed. It doesn't mean we have to pass it this way, I mean, we can, we already have some sidewalk ordinances in place.
Right.
And if we just wanna add section 3 to our current sidewalk ordinance, we probably could do that.
Because I don't
amend
see,
the
I don't see what this does, the rest of it does, that we can't already do.
Yeah.
I mean,
so
the
just,
Well,
just
that
put
makes
an amendment in there of number 3.
Yeah,
if that's what, that's why I'm trying to ask the questions, is make sure I understand why this is being presented, and if that's the reason why, then just section
Add
3 is the only thing we need to focus on.
Then that makes this very
That's
easy.
perfect, yeah. Let's put a
You
check
guys
mark
will
by
look over
that
section
and.
3.
Again, Bob, unless I'm misunderstanding something, that's why I wanna make sure I'm understanding.
That's the key point of
Yeah.
passing this, is the easement and public right of way.
Well, because a lot of the other stuff we already have, emergency repairs, we already have those things.
Requirement on the homeowner and stuff, right.
So in this ordinance here, that's an ordinance form, you added number 3 in there? That's additional?
No, this
Well, it's already in the
form
ordinance.
Came from another community.
I know, but it's already in our ordinance.
Mm-hmm.
What are you looking at there?
That's not our ordinance number.
You're looking at
Oh.
something a little, I think a little different, I think Megan,
That, I was starting to draft
she
it
was
up.
starting to
Oh,
draft
okay,
something.
so you put it in
I
our
put it,
form,
yeah, I just
okay.
put it in our
Alright.
form and then we were gonna
But,
switch up.
okay,
But yeah, I mean, we could certainly get an ordinance put together that just basically
Deals with number 3.
deals with number 3. And then the
Couldn't
rest
we
of it-
just add number 3 to an existing?
That's what
Yeah,
he
I gotta
suggests,
say-
I
that's
mean,
what
not
he suggests.
create a new one, but just
Amend
toss
it,
that
yeah,
in,
yeah.
yeah.
If
Be an
it fits
amendment.
somewhere, yes, I mean,
Yeah.
if it doesn't, then we can always, it's no more difficult just to add a
Amend the
different
ordinance and
section.
add number
Yeah,
3.
yeah, okay.
But yeah, of course, I'll see what the best,
That's what
easiest
he
way.
suggests.
Okay.
See, who says John doesn't wanna read
What else we got?
I think you should focus more on the mayor. The mayor needs to come up a little bit.
Well, I do have a question, for like all the sidewalks that are being repaired, is there I guess like a route you're going for it, like, are we doing specific areas?
So with that active transportation plan that we did, coupled with our comprehensive plan where we did the sidewalk survey, we actually just had a meeting with Mahoney County Public Health today, and one of the things we wanna focus on is the sidewalks. That's one of our biggest complaints up and down. There's certain money that you can apply for, and there's some areas that will never get, I don't wanna say will never get funded, it would have to just be paid. When it's close to a school, so safer routes to school grants, there's a lot out there. That's what we're going after, that's what we just recently, with the Fifth Street, multi-use path.
Yeah.
We applied, those grants are up to 500,000. Well, 500,000 only covered a third of the plan. We went back to ODOT and said, can we just do the whole plan, and they said yes, so we got over $2 million to do the safer routes to school, which is from the EP gas station on Pullen Avenue all the way to Midlothian.
Wow.
So that's one, but I don't wanna say those will never have, the more that it's, the closer in proximity to all 3 schools, the more likely we are to get funded. Now, I don't know, next year, we will still have one of the most recent plans, active transportation plans, but because they quadrupled the amount that they're giving us this year,
Yeah.
I don't know how likely it is, because there might be more recent plans from other communities. But I will tell you, that is one of our main priorities, main focuses, is the sidewalks. That's a very big one, but it's all over, and not just that, but just repairing sidewalks too. So there's places where we have no existing sidewalks that we would like to add, and there's places that just need repaired. So if you have a specific,
I think we need to fix the ones we have before we put new ones in.
yes, but we need the money for that. And if we're getting free money from, like ODOT is paying for the whole plan.
But some of these communities in Struthers don't even qualify for any of that money.
Right, because they're not close to a school.
But so what do we do about that? I mean, it's kind of
agree,
unfair.
But I would say that we're still gonna take what we can get.
Sure.
If they're willing to do this and not this, we'll take
Yeah,
that.
and that's what we're
You
doing,
know
but,
what I
and we do have, I'll give I guess a shout out to Mike Cassom. We had a huge tree on, Morrison, that we have been trying to find money, not just for the tree, but the sidewalk was like this. You
I
can't
have
even walk over
I
the
have
sidewalk.
sidewalks on Center Street that are like
Yeah.
that, more than one place.
Well, Mike
Paid for it
knows
himself.
he paid for everything himself,
Is that
out of
right?
his own, he fixed the sidewalk and cut the tree down. Now, you're talking thousands and thousands of dollars to do that. So
Yeah, he owned the
there-
house.
Yeah, but we're working on trying to, we have the sidewalk study, we have the comprehensive plan, we have all the data that we need, that's just going after the money. It's a lot. But some of the big trees, even on Fifth Street, are gonna get taken care of with this plan, so some of those.
One
they
down the
wanna-
bottom of Brandon.
Right at the bottom of the
Right.
street,
Oh, yeah,
that's
good
all
bad,
gonna be
yeah.
taken
Yeah,
care of,
right
so
by the
that's,
Plaza there, yeah.
that's all with this plan, so some of those
Those
big
need
ones.
done bad.
But we have a
They
guy,
really do.
he rides around on his bike and he has spray paint and he spray paints it if it's too big of a bump. But we know where
Well,
the big ones are.
the other thing too is moving forward, and again, we have ordinance against it, we need to make sure people aren't planning anything near our devil strip or even near the easement, yeah.
Yes, but I'll say we're gonna have a speaker coming in
Yeah,
soon,
and he
there
will argue that point to the
and,
day
and
guys.
so will ODOT, so will a lot of
Well, as
people.
long as he's
because-
gonna come back and pay to fix the sidewalks.
no.
again.
No,
So
it's,
there's
it's on
there's
how you
cer-
plan it.
Yes, there are certain trees, like the ones they planted in downtown Youngstown, that do not uproot the street, they don't uproot the sidewalks, they're used as traffic calming measures.
Sure,
This is all over the nation, the trees planted close are a good thing. Not the ones that uproot everything, but there are specific trees, and I think Charles is gonna
Sure.
talk to us about that. Because there's so much research on planting the correct trees along the streets. He doesn't like it, but
I don't
there,
like it either, Bob.
but there is a lot of research when it comes, and one of the biggest complaints I get all the time is, they're speeding on my street, they're speeding on my street, they're speeding on every street. And if we can incorporate, when Christy and I went to the bike summit, one of the main topics was street calming methods and how to get
And trees
people
are one of
to
them.
naturally just slow
It's
down
still
on
gonna
streets, and
overshadow
trees-
the street. Keep it wet, which over time does erode the street far more.
it,
Correct?
it depends on the type of tree you plant. He'll explain all that. I was amazed when he talked to me about it.
Here's another thing you gotta consider too, and I would look at Ohio Edison's policies on planting along the
30
street.
feet under each side.
20 or 30.
I think it's 30.
Okay, so keep that, get their policy, that needs to be
Yeah.
considered.
I've had to deal with that before. Even in an open field
Right.
that they had lines
If
running
they got-
through, got 30 feet. I wanna say it was 30 feet each side,
Okay,
underneath the
but
line.
I don't know, but their policy plays into effect on planting trees along there.
On Morrison is where there was a complaint about the sidewalk because they got 3 trees cut down because the sidewalk was like that.
That's good.
I think it's right across the street from where Mike did the other sidewalks. And I guess the time he talked to people walking by and they were worried about the kids hurting themselves on the sidewalks. They said, do you know if sidewalks are gonna be getting done in this area? I don't know.
Well, they are close to a school.
They are.
And there's more priority given to middle school and high school, cause those kids tend to walk more to school. I can't tell you it's gonna happen anytime soon, cause that's all gonna depend on grant money, so it's up to the homeowner to repair those. But we run into situations, right now, we have a tree that needs to come down, and the woman is a widow, $3,000 to take the tree down. But we have to come to some kind of agreement, but it's private property, so just like the sidewalk, that's the homeowner's
So,
responsibility.
yeah, so it's
frustrating.
kind of, it is frustrating because we had a homeowner a couple years ago said, I don't want the sidewalks, get them out of my yard.
Mhm.
Cause he don't wanna be responsible
Well,
for them.
and I don't
And he
wanna-
has a right to say that,
Yeah.
And I don't wanna jump the
because
gun
they're
on
paying property
Charles's-
taxes on those sidewalks.
Yeah. There are monies, because we're Tree City USA, and I think this is gonna probably be brought up, I won't be here on the 2nd, cause I'll be in Columbus with the chamber. But I'm sure Charles is gonna touch on this. With Tree City USA, and he's gonna talk about the tree inventory, there are monies we can apply for being a Tree City USA and having a tree inventory that we can apply for and put, we've talked about this in the past, and put some type of program together to address those specific trees and sidewalks through Tree City. We don't have it in the budget right now to be able to do it. There are a lot of trees, and there's some that we can say are safety hazards if they're in a school zone, if they're over sidewalk, if they're causing. There's like a checklist of things that we gotta be able to, but we've already done all those. But I think you'll like to hear how Charles is approach to it, and I think there is money, but I can't tell you that that's gonna happen because all of the, you guys all know the grants we apply for, it's great when we get them, but how long this stuff takes by the time you get through the planning and the bidding and it's,
Yeah.
I would love to be able to say, yeah, well, we could fix it, but there's a lot of responsibility on the homeowner for that.
Anything else? Anybody? Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second that motion. Meeting adjourned.